It's about history. It's about preservation. It's about sense of place here on Eastern Long Island. With Esperanza Leon, I'm Irwin Levy, and this is Our Hamptons. Esperanza.
Irwin, hello.
Esperanza and I have been, I'm almost going to use the word grapple. We've been grappling with a platform to discuss this issue we're going to discuss today. And it's really Native Americans. This is a podcast that does tend to be about history, part of it. And how much more history can you get than the original settlers on this land? So we're going to discuss the Shinnecock Nation, but the way we're going to go about it is with something very controversial, and particularly anyone that comes out here and goes back and forth has seen numerous times. And we're going to call it the billboards that were put up by the Shinnecock Nation on Sunrise Highway. You've seen them, Esperanza.
Yes, and I think it would be argued by the Shinnecock Nation that they are monuments.
Correct. And it can also be argued by the Shinnecock Nation. They are a sovereign nation. And they're laws that apply to you and I do not necessarily apply to the sovereign nation of the Shinnecocks.
That is correct.
So we're going to, this topic can be a little bit meaty. So we're really going to focus on, we're almost going to use how's this, Esperanza? We're almost going to use the monuments or billboards or whatever, depending on which side you're on, whatever you want to call them. We're almost going to use that as the metaphor for the trials and tribulations, if for lack of a better term, of the Shinnecock Nation. What do you think?
I think it's a pathway.
I like that.
Into this topic.
I like that. She's smooth, isn't she? Like she just slid that one right in. But
well, this is a serious matter.
It is.
And it's delicate.
Yes.
And yet we have to talk about
it. It's true. And Esperanza and I we share everything with the followers of Our Hamptons. We're actually talking about this, saying, this is a meaty topic, and it's a sensitive issue, as Esperanza just inferred. But while we want to tell a story, it's got to be told in a certain way. It has to be engaging, and we're going to try to take a subject that's serious, but we're going to try to put it in a lot of perspective. And we're even going to discuss a little link from the Daily Show that both of us just watched. But I think a good place to start is, Esperanza, really, this is the story about two billboards, or two, whatever you want to call them. We're going to call them billboards just to make the point. One was completed in 2019. I believe that was the one on the eastbound side of Sunrise Highway.
Yes, the south side. Yeah.
The south side. And the other one was on the other side. One was completed in 19, the other in 2021. And let's not forget, these monuments / billboards, at the end of the day, they were created to generate revenue for the Shinnecock Nation. I mean,
that is the most important point.
For sure. I mean, we're going to get into
and that they are on Shinnecock Nation land.
That's correct.
Ancestral land.
That's correct. And it's also, and we're going to touch on how, look, we know the history of the Native Americans. There are aspects of it that certainly aren't pretty. And, when we had New York State, and we're going to get into this shortly, New York State, one of the bluest, if not the bluest state in the nation, actually suing to stop this construction. But we're going to get into that. So I think we're going to start with a little bit of a timeline. And I want to give props, first of all. This is from Jeremy Dennis's website. We both know Jeremy. He's not only a fantastic artist, Esperanza, but just really an advocate for the Shinnecock Nation. And he's done for a young guy, has just done extraordinary things with Ma's house and everything else.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if there's anything that Jeremy in particular has done, I think he has have brought to light the story of his people and the story of the reservation, even, which really I don't think has ever been done this way before. Artistically, creatively, just I really respect him very much and admire him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and a fantastic artist, I might
Oh
add
yeah,
also.
I have one of his pieces.
And as
I know
do
you
I.
do too.
I have one also. It's hanging up in one of our bedrooms, and Jeremy came in. I mean, yeah, he's a fantastic artist, but the work he's doing can't be minimized. It's really extraordinary. So I thank him for this timeline that he put on his website, and we're really taking that to sort of give us a basis. So early 2000, May of 2019, Esperanza, and it's funny, we have often talked on our Hamptons how people try to slide things in, developments, houses in the dead of winter.
Oh, February.
Not Shinnecock Nation. They went full on right before Memorial Day.
Right.
So they entered into a contract with a billboard company, Iconic Digital Displays, to erect this 2 double-sided billboards and to share the revenue with the Shinnecocks. And these towers, again, anyone that's driven by here, let's just say you can't miss them. I mean, they are 61 feet tall.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, you couldn't miss the first one, and now there are 2 of them. So it's the gateway. I would call it now. That is the gateway to Eastern Long Island.
You could say that, and we're going to get into it a little bit later, but there's a couple of Native American women who will discuss that in greater detail. But we're going to she had a segue in mind, and it was a good segue, but I think we want to just
hold off.
We're going to ease into that. So this started in 2019. And then, of course, literally immediately in 2019, New York State Governor Cuomo brought a lawsuit to stop the construction, which it did temporarily halt. But then construction continued. And again, the fact that this is a sovereign nation, Esperanza, do you think we could say they sort of, I'm not going to say they ignored the rules of stopping, but they're a sovereign nation. Things just don't really apply to them. I mean, tribal lands, this is right from, right from federal law. Tribal lands are exempt from federal highway regulations. So the Federal Bureau's determination over the Sunrise Highway lane could impact, the state's application. These lands are exempt. So, now, continuing now, again, once this thing was erected, there was a brouhaha. Hampton Bays Beautification Association hosted a rally objecting to it. Made a big issue of it in the middle of May. But by late May, the construction was completed. And the chairman of the Shinnecock Nations, Brian Polite, said they were now waiting for the materials for the second billboard to arrive. So we're just going to continue, just so we have a little bit of a timeline. We're going to stay a little bit into 2019. The billboards continued to be, this one billboard was up.
Right.
And now here's where it gets a little interesting. Right around the 4th of July, CBS News interviewed Southampton Supervisor Jay Schneiderman. And now I'm going to quote Jay Schneiderman here. "The town is appalled by what is going on." This is like old time radio, Esperanza. I'm going to do this as an actor. I'm going to be an angry. "The town is appalled by what is going on. I mean, we are outraged."
Strong words. Those are them's fighting words.
Them's fighting words. We are outraged, Jay Schneiderman told CBS New York. And here we go. Schneiderman expressed concern that the signs would present, this is, dangerous distractions to vacationers from New York City, heaven forbid. I guess talking on their cell phones while they're driving this.
Or texting.
Or texting when they're driving. Yeah, that's not distracting them. But the signs would be a dangerous distraction heading to vacationers heading to the Hamptons along 27. According to Schneiderman, the signs would be better suited for Times Square rather than the farm country of the Hamptons.
Yeah, which could be argued, right, Irwin?
I
Farm
would,
country.
yeah. You sort of took the words right out of my
Yeah,
mouth.
how much of that is left, right?
Yeah, and so, and I mean, by the
So,
way,
and so wait, but so before that was July,
right?
right? But we also, I think, I don't know if this came before, but there was, while they were waiting for the second one to be constructed, they were also being held up basically by New York State and town of Southampton, who were trying to halt the project. And that was taking a toll on both the billboard company, obviously, and the tribe, because they were both losing revenue.
Exactly correct. This was right before the Schneiderman quote, a couple of weeks earlier, when Larry Clark, who was the manager of iconic digital displays, the billboard company, the stop work order was, it was hurting him. He's employing people to build these signs. Advertisers were getting concerned. Subcontractors were getting concerned. The reputation of his firm was getting concerned. Was
Right. I mean,
damaged. Yeah.
And if they were going to try to get advertisers to pay to publicize on these billboards, they weren't going to sign on, and that's lost revenue for the reservation, obviously, and for Iconic because they're sharing the proceeds.
Correct.
So, I mean, that would be the main one, right?
And what's interesting, Esperanza, going back, and this one just dawned on me. Actually, we touched on, I shouldn't say that completely. We touched on it briefly, but the Hampton Jitney is a rolling billboard.
I was just going to, yeah.
Esperanza brought this point out before we went on air.
How distracting is that?
How distracting is that? I don't hear Supervisor Schneiderman discussing the Hampton Jitney billboards.
Right. Which I do find them a slight on the landscape.
I mean, you could really make that argument for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
But meanwhile, again, now staying into July, I mean, local and state officials were complaining to the tribe, about all of this. And again, Jay Schneiderman again telling the New York Times, the signs violate the spirit of our local ordinances meant to protect the rural character of the town, which
I totally get. I get it.
Yeah.
But this is not Southampton town land.
That's right. And meanwhile, I still see signs for Burger King and McDonald's.
Oh,
in Southampton.
Totally,
so what about that?
Yeah.
And again, now tribal officials, and now here's the real 800-pound gorilla in the room. And this gets into the whole bigger picture. Tribal officials say they need the revenue from the billboards to provide for their members. That's really what this was all about. 30 of these local elected officials sent the tribal letter asking them, as the supervisor, and again, Jay Schneiderman again, develop other economic engines.
Yes, and as usual, so they're pushed in one direction or another. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. What can you do?
Right. And as
on your own land.
And
on your ancestral land.
And how about to paraphrase what you just mentioned? I guess it's easier said than done. It's easy for a Southampton official to say something like that to a tribe that's been robbed of ancient lands
who've been subjugated for nearly 400 years.
And I think that's an excellent segue. So I guess an episode of Our Hamptons wouldn't be complete without acknowledging Esperanza Leon's segue.
My segues.
Segue queen. So we do, again, we're not going to go delve too deeply into American, history in this issue, because I mean, that could take up, but again, we're trying to keep it germane to this, to this specific issue. But needless to say, there was a very organized group of Shinnecock Nation. And I mean, I think this kind of quote says it all. I mean, there were a few women, they called themselves the Warriors, and, just Margot Thunderbird, Teletroge, Becky Genya, and Jennifer E. Cuffey Wilson. Now, Cuffey, we know, Esperanza, is a name we've heard. Amelia, that's an old name out here, a Native American family. There's a
Yeah.
Cuffey Drive
Well,
in
and
Sag Harbor.
Thunderbird.
And
Hello.
Thunder, yes, and Thunder.
There's a car named after Chief Thunderbird.
But exactly right. But they, I think Cuffey Wilson really said it best, talking about the whole relationship between everything. And this is a quote: "We were the ones who welcomed them," Cuffey Wilson, a Shinnecock elder, said of Southampton. This is her talking about Southampton, which was founded in the 1940s. We helped them,
1640s.
1640s, sorry, thank you. We helped them with food. We helped them with clothing. We helped them with housing. We gave them land. And in turn, we got treated like, I'll leave that out. And
Beep.
now, bleep. But now they've gotten to a generation, and this is strong. We've gotten to a generation when just not taking it anymore. And that really says a lot. And again, to bring this point home, Esperanza, the monuments were designed to drive revenue for the Shinnecock Nation.
Huge economic impact.
Tremendous economic impact.
I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I presume if they're doing it, it's because they crunched the numbers. And this is going to help us with social programs, with our police department, with building playgrounds, as I think Mr. Polite said.
And Esperanza, what's consistently come to be here is 60. Now, this is not, I know I just said 1940s instead of 1640s, but this is not a misstatement now. 60% of the tribe lives below the federal poverty line. 60% of the tribe, and as we both know, Esperanza, the Shinnecock Nation is about a mile from Meadow Lane, arguably some of the most expensive real estate in the world.
Yes.
So what's wrong with that picture?
Well, in fact, so many of these mansions have been built upon these ancestral lands. In fact, fortunately, in more recent years, there have been stop work orders, thankfully, recognizing that there are sacred burial grounds and those homes have not been built, or, the tribe has been able to come in and perform their ceremonies that they, find is at least a way to redress the, what do you call it? The violation of these lands for them, basically.
Completely true. And, again, just reading some of this, and we also, in addition to Jeremy Dennis, there was a phenomenal article from the New Republic magazine about this during this whole billboard controversy, which, some of the research comes from, and this is from that. And this stuff is telling us, Bronze, each generation of Shinnecock citizens has had to deal with either Southampton or the state of New York trying to extend its hand into their business, acting out of a desire for more of the reservation's valuable land. And now, remember, you were starting this dialogue in the 1600s. Since the Shinnecock Nation first signed a 1,000-year lease for 3,500 acres,
3,500 acres in Southampton.
3,500 acres with Southampton in 1703. So we're going from 3,500 acres. Esperanza, the reservation now is whittled down to its current 800 acres.
And they're supposed to be happy about that.
Yeah, exactly. This is starting to become a very somber episode.
I know. I'm trying not to get worked up about.
We don't want it, right? We don't want it to be. We no one's tuning in for that, but it's just kind of, it has to be said. It just has to be said. And continuing on, Esperanza, which almost makes this even worse. In 1859, a group of Southampton investors worked to convince the state to break its lease with the nation to develop the Shinnecock Hills area and extend the railroad using what tribal members claim were forged and fake signatures. But this stripped the tribe of its most valuable land, the Shinnecock Hills, which was subsequently turned into the golf club. I mean, Shinnecock, it was the U.S. Open is played on the Shinnecock Golf Club. And the adjacent mansions, real estate. So you see why this, I guess you see why Ms. Cuffy Wilson wears a black baseball cap that says "Make America Native Again." Oh gosh, right?
The manna hat.
Right. That's right.
I like the manna hat.
We want manna hats.
Yes.
We won't discuss this. We don't get deep into politics on our hats, but we want manna hats, not that's the code, Esperanza. All right. So anyway, now we're going to move a little bit forward into a little bit closer to present day here. Okay. So
all right.
59.
All right. So like we're talking 100, it's like 100 years, 100, 150 years, every 100, 150 years, something happens.
Something happens to this. Right. And so correct. So now we're moving a little bit closer to present day. Now it's 1959. Now Sunrise Highway, Route 27 is being constructed. Remember, it used to be very difficult to get out this way until the late 50s. And now here's the other thing.
And you won't be able to answer this question. I just wondered, I mean, they managed to build a highway through the Westwoods, which is tribal land.
That's exactly where we're going right now. And that's correct, Esperanza. And to your point, the state used the highway easement, to create Sunrise Highway, to make the trip out to Montauk even easier for the region's, this is the New Republic talking, wealthy summer vacationers. And if you recall, now Esperanza and I, when my kids were very young, my kids are in their 30s now, so I'm going back when they were little children, we went to the powwow at the Shinnecock Reservation. I'm sure Esperanza's taken her children there a few times, but I do remember these things. There were little businesses. Now, the Shinnecock Nation citizen, Jonathan Smith, had a smoke shop. And if you recall, the state was upset because he was able to sell cartons of cigarettes on the res without a state tobacco tax. And 60% poverty. So you have a Native American trying to make a living on his ancestral land. And you're going
to crack down on him. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just I let the air go dead for a minute because I wanted to. I'm editing what I'm thinking what I want to say. Not saying what
Choose your words.
I'm choosing them wisely. This is a family program, but and this article continues how the NIMBYs, and by the way, NIMBY. This is present day. We have NIMBYs. I mean, we could do Esperanza. That's a future podcast to show
a whole episode on NIMBYism
on Eastern Long Island. We could be a mini series, but they were upset about a proposed bingo hall, and there was fighting going on with that. And now moving it up into a little bit closer now in 2020, the state again is taking issue with, and we just touched on this earlier, with the Shinnecock Nation's latest attempt to generate revenue and enforce its sovereignty. Esperanza, you just said this a couple of minutes ago. It seems every 100 years they undergo this battle.
Right. And also, like I said earlier, it's like, okay, we're going to do this. No, you can't. Okay, we're going to do this. No, you can't.
Yes.
So much for sovereignty.
That's exactly correct. And again, going back to Ms. Cuffy Wilson, and she seems to be, these group of, as the self-named warriors, as they call themselves, she seems to be more or less the spokesperson. But this is another one of these powerful kind of statements that she put out there. And like she was saying, one reason why the state doesn't want us to have this is because as soon as you come down Sunrise Highway and see these two monuments with the Shinnecock symbol, it's saying to you, you're entering Shinnecock territory. You're not entering the town of Southampton.
You're not entering the Hamptons.
You're not entering the Hamptons. This is Shinnecock territory. And they don't want to struggle with that. And I love her quote here, Esperanza. It's a gloomy sleep, I know. That's a painful thing. But guess what? You all need to get over it.
Yeah, because they have to start being honest about their town, she says, and how it was founded. And, I have to admit, growing up out here, I could tell you, it was like I was oblivious to the fact that there was a reservation, pretty much. I mean, it was sort of like something you knew about, but
It was,
it was, you know, it's
you know,
almost like you don't go there, you
yeah,
know, or something like that. And it's
and
painful for me to even think and say that right now,
it real,
because
it is. And
I love going to the powwow. It's a moment when we can visit the reservation and interact and look at, you know, this, the pride and the and share in the food and the dancing and everything. And it's really a beautiful moment. And it's sad that I didn't get to grow up with that knowledge and that experience.
and to your point, it is true. They've sort of been. I mean, do you think invisible is the right word? In a
Well,
sense, they've been
that
sort
is
of invisible.
exactly what Brian Polite says. He says they are the forgotten people of the Hamptons, right?
Yeah.
And that is it. Just to me, that wow, that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah. And again, to just sort of like take sort of the recurring theme of our Hamptons, we've spoken about all of these different people that sort of make up the fabric and the dynamic of this community. Esperanza, we've spoken about the Abex artists, the farmers, the Baymen,
Right.
the Bonnickers. Um, these are the people that started it all out here.
Truly, truly.
I mean,
And a really vibrant, amazing history that we all need to learn more about.
and unfortunately, alluding to something you said earlier, it. Wow, yeah, sort of stay. That's not our neighborhood there. Like just horrible. It's embarrassing almost to even say these kind of words, but
Yes.
it is. I think it is sort of how it's been playing out, and bringing it again. We're going to start to wrap this dialogue up, and in 2020, this went before the state Supreme Court, and there was a Judge Burland. The monuments pose none of the disruptive consequences and no unacceptable safety risk. Because part of the lawsuit, Esperanza, was DOT saying these monuments / billboards were dangerous.
Right.
Now, he didn't entirely dismiss the state's lawsuit, but he did conclude ultimately the burden's up to the state and the town to really refute the defendant's contention about sovereign control. And that's sort of where it left. And moving it into the present day, January of last year, because it's sort of been on a holding pattern now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, both monuments are built.
Both monuments are built
and active and have
right. So,
and have they caused thousands of accidents?
No, and
have they entertained people along the way as they sit in traffic coming out here? Like, why don't they deal with that?
That's also
sorry.
Yeah, that's but it's very true. So, and again, I guess to sort of put a wrap on this, the billboards are still here now. There's really been no scuttlebutt over this, to best of, I mean, we follow things pretty closely, and I don't think there's been really much of anything here over the last year or so. So I mean, are we all getting used to it? Are we all just living with it? I mean, I don't think it's a recognition of, we have to do this for the Shinnecocks. I don't think there's a generosity of spirit in that sense towards the Shinnecock Nation over this, but I just think are
they really that offensive?
Yeah. And maybe we have other fish to fry.
Well, for sure, that's the case. Yes.
Yeah,
like the traffic,
and the airport, and the affordable housing,
and the affordable housing, and the maxing out of properties with 20,000 square foot houses. That's not offensive.
That's
right?
not offensive. No, apparently
None
not. But a billboard raising revenue for a community that's 60% of its residents who've been here long before us. Well, this is starting to be the real editorial here. I got to be careful. But, I guess this is our Hamptons. We can sort of say what we want. But I guess just to close this, Esperanza, okay, the billboards are still there.
Right.
The majority of the brouhaha seems to have subsided. And I guess now it's going to be wait and see what develops moving forward.
Yeah, and going back to, you mentioned it, but you must watch. I have to watch it again. This Trevor Noah Daily Show clip is phenomenal,
I,
and the ending is perfect.
I think this is a great place to end. And Esperanza, thank you for reminding me to bring that up. And this, by the way, I don't know if you know this, that was on Jeremy Dennis's website. So, I mean, it was really, he posted it there because while it's very tongue in cheek, it's laugh out loud funny. I mean, it's Trevor Noah, it's the Daily Show. It's about a 4.5 minute clip. It's hysterical, but
serious.
serious. Esperanza used the term when we were talking about it earlier. She called it almost a tragicomedy.
It is, yeah.
And that was sort of what it was like. You will laugh out loud. It's really funny. It's incredibly entertaining.
And the point comes across.
And the point comes across. It will be posted on the link when this episode publishes. It'll be on our Instagram page. Esperanza, we, as always, this was serious stuff, more serious than we maybe normally talk about, but it was still fun to do it with you. So thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sure that we will continue a conversation, so that we can keep talking about the history of so many communities and people out here that often are neglected. So thank you, Irwin, for this opportunity. I love talking to you always.
We have this. I hope I think the Southampton's audience senses we're having fun, right, Esperanza?
And we won't do it if we're not having fun.
There you go. Thanks so much.
All right, Irwin. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us. New episodes of Our Hamptons are released every other Tuesday. Find them wherever you get your podcasts.